Hello,
Hello,
Carson S. Davis.
Kevin Kittle. Wait, no, that's your name, and I'm
That's my
Carson.
name.
Right.
You're Carson S.
There we go.
What did the S stand for?
Superman.
Shenanigans?
Superman. Yeah, Superman.
I thought it was Carson Shenanigans Davis.
That would be
Superman event.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People who know what Carson Shrek Davis.
Yeah, that would be fun.
I don't want to admit this, but I've never seen Shrek.
It doesn't.
I never watch any of those things. Everything that everyone has seen, I've never watched.
I would be more concerned if Kevin Kittle had sat down to watch Shrek one evening, I think.
I've told you this, I've never seen a frame of any of the Star Wars movies. People running. They don't want to kill me when I say that. I'm like, I don't like things that take place in space. I hate when the character looks human, except they got like shit for a forehead. Like they look totally human, but their forehead's all lumpy. I go, that's an alien? I don't like it.
That's crazy because you were like the perfect age. Like you were like the perfect audience.
No,
love
dude, I was 17 when the first one came out, and everyone was running to see it. And I'm like, I don't like that.
I don't know. This George Lucas guy.
Whatever. Anyway. But you know what I do love watching, Carson?
What?
Anything our guest is in. How you like that segue? Come on now.
That's a nice.
I hated Star Wars, but I love Jasmine Carmichael.
Look at that. That's a segue. Yeah, that's really something. That was seamless.
Seamless.
That wasn't pushed at all.
If clunky is seamless, then I know what you mean. Anyway, yes, our guest is Jasmine Carmichael. Jasmine was supposed to be our guest a couple of weeks ago, but you know, events conspired against us, and she couldn't make it. But here she is today with us. We're very, very excited. Jasmine is a former student of mine, and we stay in touch, of course. Great actor, great teacher, and becoming a really good director. She's got a great artistic director's mind. I think eventually she'll make a really good artistic director. And in fact, for a while, she was an associate artistic director of our company, the 1-1 company. We'll talk to her about that. But you know, as an actor, she's been on a ton of television. She worked with Kevin Bacon in a show called The Following. She worked with Queen Latifah. She did an episode of The Equalizer. She had a recurring in a great show. Everyone listening to my voice, you must go watch Sneaky Pete on Amazon. 3 seasons of Sneaky Pete. She played Gina, who was a con woman, and she was just great in it. So she's done a ton of film and television and theater. We'll talk to her about playing Juliet in a film, a great indie film called Romeo and Juliet in Harlem. And with the great Harry Lennox, who people should know Harry Lennox. He's really, really great. He's currently on Broadway in Purpose, Pulitzer Prize-winning play Purpose. So he's wonderful, always working. Everybody listening to me, look him up, Harry Lennox. Okay, so Jasmine's done a lot of work, and we're going to talk to her about the spectrum of that work. She's very, very multi-talented. Okay, so here is our guest, Jasmine Carmichael. It should not be acting training. It should be actor training.
Am I a good actor?
Like me doing. It's not a Meisner podcast.
There it is.
Hello, young woman.
Hi, old man.
Hello, Jasmine.
Hi.
Everything good?
Yes, things are well. You're catching me on a productive Monday, but it's productive of things that I'm happy to do. So I'm in a good mood.
You feel you're in a good mood? Carson, did you know that Jasmine calls me old man?
Well, that's fitting.
Yeah. Hey.
It wasn't the most creative of nicknames, but the material was right there for me. So
Well, she's Meisner trained. All she had to do was take me in.
Right, exactly.
What should I call him? How about old man? affectionately though, very affectionate.
Mhm.
Hey, old man. Jasmine and I go back a little bit. Actually,
Quite a
the
bit.
old man thing, quite a bit. Listen, I just remembered the old man thing. A couple of Sundays ago, June 15th, Jasmine sent me an email. What day is June 15th? Father's Day. She sends me an email, Happy Father's Day, which really was very moving to me. It just felt so great to know that I don't have any biological, my wife and I, not for any reason, we just decided not to have kids. So for her to go, Happy Father's Day, like you mean that much to me, it really, really moved me. So we do go back a little bit, and we've done a lot of work together, which we'll talk about. Um, but but that Father's Day thing makes me think that you and I, our topic of what we call the three C's. That's the topic for today's episode. This is episode 4, part 2 of our not a Meisner podcast. And I think Jasmine, that what we'll do is we'll discuss a topic in part 1 of every episode, and then part 2 we invite some luminary on.
And you got
And
me.
you're luminous, so that's you.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, so we'll invite someone on to go deeper with it and to ask how that topic has plays into their professional life. And so you're kind of perfect for this. Those 3 C's are commitment, concentration, and collaboration. And that Father's Day thing, it made me think about collaboration. Like you and I have collaborated long enough that the love is crossed over from out of the work and into our actual lives with each other. Do you Let me ask you, is it your experience that most people approach all of our work, whether it's teaching or acting or anything, with a sense of collaboration? Like, do you assume it, or do you have to feel it out and go like, this person understands, or this is not the best collaborator in the world and I got to figure how to be with them?
That was a really interesting adjustment after I graduated because, and I can't speak to what the program is right now, but I went to Rutgers Mason Gross when you obviously was still teaching and directing. And so much of that program was built upon collaboration and group work, collective work, right? Collective creativity. And so it just put me into a default of, oh, when I go into a creative space, it's instantly a collaborative space. And so leaving school and being in other spaces, being in my first professional rehearsal rooms and getting hit with, oh, creative space doesn't automatically equal collaborative space. Everyone has their own process, and some people are wanting to collaborate right at the start. Some people need some time to sort of cement and settle themselves before they feel safe to collaborate. And some people, it's just going to be an isolated process all throughout, and you are just going to respond to what you're given, but you are never really invited or asked in to make a cohesive, I'm trying to think of another word beyond collaborative, but yeah, collaborative piece together. There's no partnership in it. It's
Right.
we're on stage at the same time. We're in the same play, but we did not come to this together at all.
Oh
Um,
boy.
yes. So what I'll say is when I do work with, it's always a relief to work with Rutgers people who have been trained by you or trained in that time of you and Barbara, Monaco, because there is not just a willingness to collaborate, but the ability to collaborate, because that's something different as well, right? Some people have a willingness to do it, but don't necessarily have the ability, have never done it before, don't know what it means to share ideas or allow your idea to be sacrificed or evolved or molded or given over to somebody else for the betterment of the piece, right? So there's so many so many spaces, so many different agreements, but I will say whenever I'm in a Rutgers space, circa the era that I was there, or around that time frame, I'll just say in a Kittle record space, it's always a space of where collaboration is the expectation and the requirement coming in. If you
Yeah.
do that, then this is not the space for you.
That's so fascinating. Oh my God. Well, first of all, that was really interesting when you referred to it as a sort of as a sacrifice of like, listen, if I bring a ton of ideas in, a few of them may be sacrificed for the good of the whole. Like I'm here to lend myself. Now that you're a director, Jasmine, you know this, that the director's job solely is to unify because everybody involved, and also this is an actor-centric podcast, but really, we forget that there were more people involved in collaborating on a theater piece than just actors. There are the designers and the stage manager and all the crew backstage and running the boards and all that stuff. It's a everybody's got to be in the same world with this. And there are even clock punchers. Somebody who shows up and punches the clock and just does their job for the hours that it takes and then punches out. The time they're there, they better be like, we're all in this together, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, we're all zoned in. You know, you think about the ushers, right? They have, and I'm specifically thinking about Black theater, not necessarily movies, but the job of the usher is so important, you know, especially when people come in late, or theater etiquette is such
Ugh.
a lost practice these days.
Oh, no.
You know, so monitoring things like cell phones, or people who like to talk in live theater as though they're in a movie, which I have issues with people talking in movies too.
Basically, even if you're in your living room watching a movie with someone else, don't talk.
With Sarah, I do that to my mom. She knows now. I've trained her to not talk when we're watching something, and I can feel her sometimes because we have that awareness. So I'll feel her like look over to me sometimes when something happened and she wants to share in that reaction. But I know like I can't give you any sort of attention because that's going to invite you to further talk about it. So I feel you looking, but I'm going to stay straight ahead and I'm going to watch the screen because I'm in it, and we will talk after.
After. I can't tell you, Jasmine, how many times I have to pause the movie. Like Donna, my wife will start talking. I'm like, pause. I'll go, yes. What? Because I don't want to be like, shut up. I'm glad you said I trained my mom. If I said I trained my wife, she'd kill me.
You can't say that. You can't. I, as a child, can say that of my mother. But if I had a partner, I couldn't say that.
You know,
No.
but I love what you said, Jasmine, about the ushers, because I am one. But and I say it because there's this great actor named Gabriel Ebert, really talented guy, and he doesn't know me, but he was doing a show at a Susan Laurie Park show at the Public, and before every show, he would tell all 4 ushers who were in that house, have a good show, and that always touched me because like it mattered, like we were in it too, and I was like, that's so kind of you. You know?
You are the first contacts that the audience has. I mean, unless they went to the box office first, but you greet me, you welcome me into the space, you show me let you set the tone and the vibe of this atmosphere that I'm about to, enter into. And you were that first point. That's such an important, and you're the last person that I see as I'm leaving, right? You were ushering me back into the world after this experience that I've had, and in some way, like allowing me to touch grass again with your presence, right? And that's all a part of it. It's every piece of the puzzle is so important.
Right.
Amazing. I wonder if there are any theaters or theater companies that sue to bring the ushers into the whole thing. Like maybe there's some kind of rudimentary training, but do we ever think that, hey man, well, you're here, you're a huge part of the whole thing. Like imagine bringing them in before we open the house and having everybody in a circle going, okay, here we go, have a good show. Carson, man, that guy, I love that.
I know. I was always touched by that because I don't expect anything. That's just like, it's just a gig to pay the rent. Like, and he, he brought us all into it every show, not like on opening night either. Like he was at
yeah.
Matter.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
we have to have that guy on our podcast, Carson.
Yeah, he's in I mean, I don't know him, but I know he's in John Proctor's The Villain right now on Broadway.
Oh,
He's playing Carter Smith, the teacher.
oh, the teacher.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So, do you think, Jasmine, this is going all the way back to what you were, all the way back 2 minutes ago, to what you were talking, made it sound like we're going all the way back to the 1920s when theater was,
Yeah, the
we're
wrong.
going back exactly 2 minutes. Yeah, right. Do you think that trust is something that has to be, or do we want people to show up with an assumption of goodwill and trust? Like, I would rather assume it than have to earn it. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. And that's a really good question that I'm mulling over in this moment, because it also kind of goes back to that answer that I had before of, I think this actually falls on the director to create a space that is allowing for that sort of goodwill and trust to be really established on day one. That community building that you do, whether, whatever icebreaker you do or whatever exercises, movement exercises, collaboration, whatever you do to create the spirit of ensemble, in order for that to lay the groundwork for then everybody to buy into it. I think the hope is that everybody comes with the willingness to buy into trust and goodwill. And if something happens that then makes it where, oh, now I need a different sort of boundary in this space.
Right.
I cannot give that sort of vulnerability. Then you do kind of have to, and I've been there, then you do kind of have to protect yourself and put up boundaries around your personal self while still allowing yourself to work with trust and goodwill. Right.
Yeah.
Which is a tricky, it's tightrope, especially given what material you might be working on. You would ideally love it if you could trust your partner as a person and as a fellow actor. But sometimes all you have is, I trust you in the confines of this scene, of what has been directed. And then outside of that, there is no trust, there is no goodwill, there is no kinship here beyond what is the scripted relationship between the two of us.
Yeah, that's a bit of a tragedy, that those two things could cancel each other out. Like, can you commit without trust? Becomes the real question.
I've been in actually, it was a situation in college. And it was the first time, and it's why it's burned so brightly in my memory. And at the time, I dreaded it, but I was so thankful for it as a professional. I had to work with someone who I personally didn't have any affinity for, and I didn't trust as a partner, because there had been a couple of times where I had drawn a line and they had crossed that line because they thought artistically it was valid. And so it made it, and it was a really vulnerable scene. We were like two high school kids who were in love with each other and supposed to part. And it was very intimate and gentle, that scene was. So it required so much intimacy and vulnerability between the two of them. And it was a real challenge. I remember I used to have to tell him, don't touch me before we go out. Because if you touch me, all of the prep that I had is going to drain from my body. The only time I can interact with you is when we are actually on stage and when we are those characters. And then that's it. I cannot interact with you before, because I'll lose everything, because my personal with you is so strong that it will kill my work unless I don't see you until we get out on that stage.
Wow.
Right.
But then that says something about your concentration and your your sort of investment in the circle of attention, because you're saying anything that's within the circle of attention, that is the stage that we're on, is in the world of the play. So I can go, you are who I say you are in the world of the play. once we step out of that, in reality, I can't. You and I don't jive, and I don't want anything to do with you. But that's fascinating, man. Don't touch me before we go out there, because you need your partner to recognize the difference between off stage and on stage, and the imaginary world and real life. You know, to be really brave to be an actor, like that's a brave thing to do, to go out there and be open and vulnerable to somebody, because you have made them in your, what we call crafting. You've made them in your crafting the person that you are in love with, and they're leaving you, you're leaving them, or whatever. And it's very vulnerable, because they are nothing like that in real life, you know?
Yeah, I think my commitment has always been, and this has gotten me into trouble sometimes, and I've actually adjusted this as I've gotten older. My commitment has always been to the story, and telling the story as fully and as truthfully as I can tell it, which for me means allowing myself to be as vulnerable as I possibly can be, and not having any judgment for um, the story that I am telling, the person or the persons that I am giving life to. I'm allowing myself to be a vessel for, right?
Yeah.
Just holding that, and holding the responsibility of the story, and allowing myself to be secondary to that. And for me, taking the responsibility of, okay, whatever personal work that I'm recognizing I need to do in order to tell this story. And I'm not talking about actor's homework. I'm talking about like uh mentally, emotionally, like, do I need to be journaling before this? Do I need to be running or walking to have some sort of, physical release before or after this? Um, Whatever sort of work that needs to be done. Like, I take that responsibility on, so that when I am telling the story, I don't have to worry about the repercussions or the effects that the story is going to have on me. Because if I'm worried about that, if I'm anxious about what this story is going to do to me, then I can't give myself over to it fully. Right.
Right.
So I have to know, and this is why I prefer scripted stories. I like to direct devise things. I don't like to be in them.
Yeah.
I like to have that script, and for my comfort, I need that roadmap so that I can know, okay, this is going to require this of me as an actor, which means this is how I need to take care of myself as a person, and I be able to do the story fully. And if that no going in, and we accidentally hit upon something that's going to be detrimental to me as a person, because of my ability to compartmentalize and commit, I'll follow through for the story.
Oh, yeah.
I will have to then deal with what I've now put myself through, or what I've now opened up within myself, without having a real intentional care plan for how to deal with that moving.
Yeah. Well, I think, well, you just opened up 3 cans of worms that would be really, I think, really, really valuable for us to talk about. One is that self-care. I think, we should make it really, really clear to young actors out there that we do expect you to open yourself up and be vulnerable, and commit and be brave and throw yourself into it. But, you don't have to say yes to everything. If it feels weird, it is. Like if a director's asking something of you and you go, something's weird about this, stop.
Yeah.
Go to the stage manager with it, or just take a step back. If a partner or anybody else in the script is in the play is making you feel uncomfortable, you are well within your rights to go, we got to talk this through. I don't want any of our listeners to think that because we talk about bravery and boldness and vulnerability and commitment, it doesn't mean like somebody's hurting you in some way. You don't go, well, I'm committed, so I'm going to just fight through it. No. No.
Well, Kevin, you always say that's anti-artistic, and I love that you say that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there are people who use the work in order to try to get something. They manipulate the work, or they manipulate their partner in order to try to get something. It's anti-artistic. It's a misuse of the work, and it's disrespectful to all the artists that came before, all the people who thought about art and and technique and how to create something so that the actor only has to have done their homework and then show up and give over to what is happening. They should be able to dive into that field, into that pool of goodwill. And anything that feels weird, it probably is. So you should take care of yourself that way.
Yeah, I mean, that's getting back to that space of trust and goodwill. And I really do. I Kevin, you will always say this, that you are educating us to be director-proof actors, which I so sincerely appreciate, and it's true, right? Because I've come across that you are so good at communicating the picture that you see inside of your head, but you're also good at adjusting your communication for the audience that's in front of you. And not every director, most directors that I've come across actually don't have that ability to be able to articulately express or convey the picture or the idea that's in their head to somebody else. And then if they are able to do that, then I've run into ones who are able to do that, but only in one way. And they cannot switch their communication style or give you any other reference if you're not getting what they're saying on the initial, try. And to me, that is a failure of directing, right? It's not just enough for me to be able to know what it is and for me to be able to communicate in a way that I understand. But I'm working, unless I'm doing a one-woman show, I'm working with other people. So it is my job to either give them the tools beforehand so that they have those references already set in, right? So that we're all working with the same thing, or like to get to know, figure out, how do these people best communicate? How can I best express myself to them in order to get out of them what I want, right? But so often as an actor, you are going to work with directors who do not have that ability, especially if you are working in film and television, because unless you are like number one, right, or a series regular, if you're coming in to do a specific job and they are talking to you not like you're a person, but they talk to you like you're that character. There's so many times a director has talked to me as though I was the character that I was brought in. I'm not actually that girl. Okay, so I need you can just talk to me as a regular person, just talk to me in actor terms, but they don't know how to do that. It's all fast, fast, fast. I have to figure out how to decipher, okay, this is what you said. This is how I understand. This is actually what you want. So this is what I'm going to give to you. But that takes time, and that takes confidence. That takes comfort in self, because a lot of times you don't have the privilege of comfort on set, right? Because usually you're just there for that 1 week or that one day, right? But if you have comfort in self, then you can say things like, no, I don't, I feel uncomfortable doing this. Or I had one time I walked on set and I was a replacement for someone who had dropped out, and they were in a love scene. And he had been working with the other actress for quite some time. But when I came in there, didn't really have any time to get to work together. But in our first scene, like, we're supposed to be greeting each other. So I hug him and he's grabbing my butt and is doing all this stuff that we had not talked about, right? And so for me, I'm like, okay, well, this is allowed for the character. So after the cut, I said to him, that's okay. You can do that for the character. I give you that permission. He's like, oh, yeah, that's what I thought. Da, da, da. But it was important for me to take back that power and take back that ownership of, I'm giving you permission to touch my body in a way that is appropriate for the character. Just because it says so on the page does not mean I have given you that permission that we have talked about what places I feel comfortable being touched. So I guess I'm saying all of this to say, don't just say no, right? Don't just shut it down, but look for a way that you can offer an alternative. Look for a way that you can offer a solution to a problem that probably only you are seeing. because nobody else is going to have the perspective of you, and nobody else is really going to be paying attention or prioritizing you in the way that you are. So you offer up something that is a problem for you, then immediately have something that you see as a potential solution or adjustment that honors the story, doesn't change the story, isn't going to take up a lot of time for the production to make any sort of adjustment or anything, isn't going to make you a problem, but is going to address the problem that you have.
Yeah, that's really important. And that happens that was great, Jasmine. Thank you for sharing that. I hope everybody out there hears that. I hope we're at a point now where we get a little bit more of it, that guy wouldn't just grab you like that. He would say to you, we're about to do a scene. This is what we worked on so far. Is it okay? Rather than after the fact, you said to him, you already did it, and I'm saying it's okay. Well, he shouldn't assume that. But also the goddamn director, right? How did they not go, this is the scene of it? But like you said, everything's fast. They're going ahead and they'll go, Jasmine's here and she's a professional and she'll just roll with the punches. Well, let's not assume that too quickly.
Right.
But I also like what you're saying about, I'm not being difficult by bringing this up. I'm not grinding everything to a halt. I'm saying, here's my take on it, and here's 3 possible solutions. You know, it's mostly television, isn't it? Because it goes so fast. And
television goes so in theater. Usually you have time to rehearse and work all of those things out, and so all of those conversations can be had with a little bit more nuance, and it's easier, I think, for you to advocate for yourself, because that first day you start and you pick who's going to be who's that person,
equity deputy,
and the equity deputy. And so you have all of those systems in place for you. Not to say that it doesn't get difficult sometimes in theater spaces, because it does. There are politics and things like that, but you have more time. Whereas film and television is pretty immediate. You're there.
You're there, and
that's it.
And and so in a weird way, it's almost like we're saying that the process of commitment in theater begins at the table sometime. People who do table work, not all directors do table work, but table work is, hey, we get 3 or maybe even 4 days of sitting, unfolding, talking about the world of the play, taking it apart, stopping and starting and talking. Eventually you have that process of getting to know people, and even you could flag something. You could go, oh, I can see this scene when we put it on its feet. Somebody's going to grab my butt, you know what I mean, or something like that. Not quite that, but you could see it coming. If this is a love scene, you go, can we talk it through? But when you show up on set, like you said, you're director proof. You're like, I know how to do my job, but we just jumped over what might have been 3 or 4 days at the table. And we're all expected to just be in that place and know it.
Do it. Yeah, it's microwave, and I don't want to say that like it's a truncated or a quicker performance, because you're still expected to do all of that work, right? And you do need to do all of that work, because something that they would always say, which I hate, and I disagree with the wording when they talk about theater and film and television, where they say, just make it smaller for film and television, which is that's not it at all, right? You're not making anything smaller. You are just focusing it, right? Because your audience is the camera. So it's just as intense, but it's through like a fine laser as opposed to a broad beam, which you're doing with theater. And because it's that intense, because it's that focus, that work has to be even more deeply ingrained and intimate within you, because your eyes don't lie. And you can always tell an actor who is more used to a stage than film and television, because they're doing all of the right things, but it never reaches their eyes. And that's why the performance doesn't translate as it would if they were on stage. Forgot where I was going with that one.
But wait, so that's fascinating. But would you agree then that when you say it doesn't translate to their eyes, we're not saying, do something with your eyes. We're saying if you are deeply alive and you've done your homework and it will, and you're connected to your partner, it will translate in behavior.
Mhm.
And in the case of camera, it translates to the eyes. It's not go on camera and be aware of your eyes and do something with your eyes. But that's fascinating. I never thought of that. We should do a panel where we talk to film, television, and theater actors, and discuss that kind of stuff. Like, what's your take on? Like, I love that you just said, I hate when they say make it small. It's not small. I'm deeply full here. It's just the behavior come through in a way differently than I see.
In a way different way. I remember I did an episode of The Following with Kevin Bacon, and they had this one shot where Kevin is reacting, and it's a big emotional scene. And when I was standing there right in front of him, it didn't really look like Kevin was doing much. I was like, oh,
Okay.
but then when I watched the episode, it's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So much, because everything else was alive, but it looked dead. Like his body wasn't really activated to me as I was watching him. But everything was here. It was all right here. And that was the shot. And he understood, you're not getting my whole body. This is a lot of times theater actors will come in and they'll do this. They'll like first scene. I used to do this when I was a young actor. First scene, they'll give it their all when they're just doing full coverage, right? No.
Yeah.
They're just getting your body. They're not actually getting any of the shots that they're going to use to show emotion. Save that. We're not in theater. Save that.
That's right.
I tell you, you're actually getting your close up. We're on your shot now. That's when you give it, right? But you don't. These are things that I learned being trained primarily as a theater actor, going into film and television and learning, oh, it's a different type of pacing that I have to do.
Yes.
It's a different sort of hold, but always be right that I have to do here versus theater. I'm like, okay, I have the day, but then I know maybe an hour, 2 hours before the show, I need to start getting ready to go and do this entire process.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, and that's a whole different technical skill set. I mean, it's also interesting too, because like now, if you're auditioning for theater, nine times out of 10, you're doing it through your iPhone or camera for a self-tape. So it's still a technical aspect of a camera when you're auditioning for a stage play, you know? So and then what's the aspect of collaboration in that? And that's just having to give over to your reader, be it on a self-tape or an audition, you know? And that's, I think, where you also do have to kind of give over and trust and assume good intent with a reader, right? Because that's your only option, and that's your life force in that moment.
Yeah.
Your reader is so important, and so many people, I mean, I think people have gotten better with this now, but choose your reader wisely. Choose as best as possible a person who's going to make it as easy as possible for you to deliver whatever you need to deliver for that character or for that scene. So I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean if it's a man, you have to have a man, but think about what is the collaborative relationship between these two people, and who do I know who is going to most naturally bring that out of me, right? Because you don't be working to work with your reader. That's just, we're already doing so much anyway. And there's somebody there, like when you were in person and there was, a reader there, but there also be a casting director. So if something was going off or if something wasn't hitting, you'd have a person right there to be able to give you a real-time adjustment. But right now, I'll say all the time, I didn't go to school to be an editor. I didn't go to school to, do all of the stuff that I now had to do. Like my background is blurred, but you could see like shady outlines, my blue wall, and like my light over there for my self-tape. I have to do a theater self-tape after this. So all of these things that we've had to learn how to do, like that's another form of commitment that now is required of the actor. It's not just being prepared as an actor. It is, do I have a studio? Do I have the right tech? Did I build a community of readers for when my agents send me an audition that's going to be due? Now they can't do 24 hours. So then what they'll do is they'll send you something at 10 p.m. at night that's due at 10 a.m. Like 10 p.m. on Monday night, you'll get something that's due at 10 a.m. on Wednesday. So they've, it's not 24 hours, but it is. And so now before, if they give me that short turnaround, they're responsible for doing everything. And all I have to do is prepare the material, where now I have to prepare the material. I have to secure a reader. I have to make sure the timeline works for me and the reader. I now have to edit it and upload it in a timely manner and an aesthetically pleasing manner, because they're people too. So people want to watch stuff that's aesthetically pleasing.
But tell it.
You know, and like as a woman, I was doing a self tape with a male friend of mine the other day, and I got so angry because he was like, "Oh, okay, I have to get ready," and all he did was wipe his face with a towel. Ready? The rage ignited throughout my body. Like, do you understand? I have to do a full face of makeup, like no matter what it is, unless she's a specified crackhead. Like, I have to do so much glam for me to like do a 5-second commercial audition. It's
Oh man. But it's those specified crackheads, right, Carson? Those are the ones.
The specified ones.
they're like, no, not the NBC ones, because they still want makeup there too.
Of course, yeah. You're playing a crackhead, but you look, the lighting. What?
Who to crack? You know what I mean?
I know.
It hasn't fully degraded me yet.
This is a total. Dude, I'm gonna go completely off topic and then come back because I don't know why I just remember this. One time, Jasmine came to see a show that I had directed, and then afterward we went out to the bar. So Jasmine and I were sitting at the bar, and a guy was there, and he was. I don't know if he was trying to pick you up, Jasmine, or if he was just being friendly. I don't know, but he's talking to Jasmine, and he goes, "What do you do?" Jasmine goes, "I'm an act." He goes, "Would I have seen you in anything?" She's like, "Well, I've done about." I swear to God, at the same time, I look up at the giant television that's over the bar, and a commercial is playing for a car or something, and Jasmine is so. And the guy goes, "Would I have seen you in anything?" And I tapped him, and I go, "Right there." But I think the guy didn't even recognize yet. I think he looked, he was like, mm-hmm. Like, I didn't think he realized the woman he was talking to was the same woman on the giant television. Like he didn't really see you. I was going, dude, you don't know what I'm saying. That the person you're talking to is right up there. But the timing of that couldn't have been more perfect. But
I don't remember that.
But Jasmine, you've done a bunch of commercials, right? As far as commitment goes, you go, what is the material? I just remember you were great in that commercial. It was, you were buying a car or some shit. It doesn't matter.
It was, I remember that commercial. I actually,
Do you?
2 girls I did that commercial with, we stayed friends after that, which is rare. We were New Jersey girls. Yeah. It was the fun
Wait, was that the silly one, the funny one? You guys were.
Yeah, that was the funny one. Which again, okay, so this is another time we're on set. I'm offering a solution because we were in this car commercial and there were 3 of us. And at the time I had sewn in weave in my hair with just, I wasn't natural at that time. I had my hair permed. So I had to sew and weave, and then I had a bit that was covering so you couldn't see the track. And, they wanted me to do this bit where the air is coming out of the vent and it's blowing my hair. And they kept trying to make it. And I finally had to say, listen, you guys, if you want the hair to blow, you're going to have to use one of the other 2 girls because my hair, it's just not going to do that. They were like, oh, okay. All right. And then they used somebody else and we moved on. Right. But like, again, you're the expert of you, and also offer a solution when you see stuff is bringing to a halt, because the other side of that is eventually they're going to start to look at you as the problem. Like, you're the reason why this thing isn't working, or they can't get the shot that they've envisioned. And there are so many other things, and the easiest person to put the blame on, like when you're at the restaurant and the food order is wrong, the easiest person to put that blame on is the waiter. They had nothing to do with the cooking of it, but they're going to get the frustration. It's the same thing as with the actor. They 9 times out of 10 didn't really have anything to do, when you're like on a film and television set, commercial set especially, didn't really have anything to do with what's causing that frustration, but they're the easiest person to kind of lay that blame on. And you always want them to remember you fondly. Always.
Yeah.
That's the biggest tip that I could give. When you're working, work in a way that when you leave, people want to work with you again. Come prepared, be a great collaborator, offer solutions, know yourself, and know how to best show up.
Well, in that story, you sacrificed on screen time. You took yourself out of a shot.
So
But it
that
was better for the
better
bigger thing.
spot. Yeah.
Right.
Because if that shot didn't work, then that's it. Then I don't have a solo shot, right? But me trying that allows them to put somebody else in, builds grappling for me, and now they're looking for, oh, now that we've taken her out of that, where can we put her into, right? Because she's done this for us. Now let's help her out.
That's great. Switching topics now. Something that you are extraordinary at. I really want to talk about this. And Carson, you two weigh in on this. The play reading. It's not we're not sitting at the table reading it, and we're not performing it, and it's not a production. It's for people out in our audience who don't know this, I think our audience is mostly actors, so they know, but believe it or not, there's some people who listen to us who are not in the theater world. I don't know what the hell they're doing listening to us, but hello and welcome and thank you. But hi. So I don't know, I'm not to sound patronizing, but when a writer is working on a play, there comes a point when they want to hear it out loud in front of an audience. So actors will stand with the script on a music stand and read it. But if they just read it dryly, like words off a page, then we all might as well just sit down and read it. But it's not a production either. Jasmine, I think all of our actors do this. I think Meister trained actors in general, but our actors from that time at Rutgers are amazing at it. But you're really good at this. You're standing there. It's clear that you're not memorized. The script's in front of you. You're turning the pages, and yet you and your partners are working off each other like it is unfolding impulsively and spontaneously. How the hell do you do that is my question.
Readings are my favorite thing to do.
Wow.
I realized this. I had a conversation with my manager earlier this year, and I said, I want to do, post-COVID and post the strike and getting back out there again. Like, I want to do more readings. If there are industry readings, if there are things that are happening, I think that's a great showcase for me. So readings for me are that sweet spot between TV and theater, or like film work and theater, where you have to make immediate choices that are based on your instinctual understanding of the material. And you have a little bit of rehearsal time to get more clarity and to further refine and define your choices. But it's not enough rehearsal time for you to really be that investigative second guessing. I don't want to say second guessing, but optioning of, oh, well, maybe it's this, or maybe this would be a stronger thing. You just have enough time to go with, this is what I understand from it. This is what the director said. And then most important, commitment to storytelling. And I think this is why I love readings, because usually you're working with the playwright. And the playwright needs to hear it, right? They need to, that is the purpose of it. And the playwright is often in the room to tell you, this is how I understand this moment, or this is what I was thinking when I did this character. They're able to give you that whatever context is needed, not necessarily for you to fully interpret it from your own understanding, but for you to fully interpret it to the best ability of their want, of their understanding of the material. So this sort of responsibility of bringing a fully formed a character that is based upon my work is taken away from me. And what I have is, okay, my responsibility is to tell this story as fully and as clearly as possible so that the writer can hear if it's actually working. That's what the purpose of this is.
The most important thing is you're doing it so the writer can hear it.
Yes. And that, I think, takes the onus off of me, the responsibility of performance off of me, because I am now acting in service to the playwright and to the story. And the reason you've chosen me, usually you do a reading, someone asks you to do a reading because they want you to read that specific part. So I walk in with the trust of, you've chosen me to do this part for a reason. So there's some sort of kinship, or whatever is my natural or instinct. That's what I'm going to lean into because that's why you brought me here.
So I'm not second guessing anything about me. I'm just leaning into, all right, well, this is what I have. This is the time that we have. This is the responsibility. And so here it is.
Well, I want to talk very briefly about We Were Here. That experience, Jasmine, like I've seen you do a ton of stuff I directed you in. That is the best work we would do a reading of a play called We Were Here. I'm not going to give too much away. There's spoiler alerts in it, but I'll try to do this succinctly. We had the opportunity to read it multiple times. Like we would do it every year. There was a marking of a time, a callback weekend at Rutgers where people would be there, and Jasmine and 2 other actors would read this play. She had such a commitment to it that there is a point in the story, and I'm telling you, we did this 5 or more times after year. Every time she's standing at a music stand with the script there's a moment where we think she's dead. And she has worked so freaking convincingly through the whole thing that when she is standing, she's not even laying down, she's standing up. The audience, every time, different audience, they would be holding their breath. And some of them were like, no. She was dead. But they could see she was standing there. It was crazy. So then the stage directions are being read. And when the reader said, suddenly something like that, the audience went crazy, like she's not dead. I was like, that's commitment. You could easily just indicate the story, but you were living it so truthfully and also so connected to the story, but also to your partner. That audience, different audience every time, had the same response, which is, no, this girl is not going to die now. No, I think she's dead. You don't see her standing there. She's not dead. She's standing up. So fucking committed and so truthful. And then when you would take that breath, the whole audience, the atmosphere in the room would switch. You could just feel it.
I also thank you for saying that. There are a couple things about that show. One, I've realized as I've gotten older that I'm drawn to stories that are either about real people or based on real life events. Which that story is. It's inspired by life events.
Yes.
And there's something about Viola Davis. I always reference this when she won her Oscar. She said, it's our responsibility to exhume the bodies and tell the stories.
Wow.
And I feel that so deeply. And work that is inspired by or based on real people, real events, that responsibility to exhume the bodies and tell the stories, that holds significant weight and meaning for me. And so when We Were Here, it is dealing with characters or people who suffer from or live with depression and suicidal ideation. And there was, when we first did that show, I didn't have any sort of personal connection to that at all, but just as a character and the writer, can we say?
Yeah, we've referenced Rhett. This is Rhett Rossi, who we've referenced in other.
This is an unpublished.
Yes.
Unpublished play, but this writer is extraordinary. We talked about Eli and I talked about him in an episode.
Rhett is such a brilliant writer. He makes it so easy. It just sort of flows from the page to your mouth, just out into the real world with such ease. You don't really have to do much. And that's, I say that. I don't know how you do have to do much because there is a lot that he puts into his work. So you do need to bring yourself fully. But once you bring yourself fully, he's given you the text, right? So it's sort of like Shakespeare in that way, where Shakespeare has given you the text. All you need to do is come with your fullest self and then just speak the words, and it's going to be there. It's going to be a cycle that continues to feed you and you feed it, and it's going to last until the show ends.
Those are the words that line up with the homework that you've done.
Right.
Yeah. So that first show, it was, I don't want to give spoilers away either, but you've already said she comes back to life.
I didn't have any personal connection to it. It was just an actor's connection to it. And it was sort of like the actor's thrill. And then the actor's like going through, oh, I've just lived that experience and I lived that experience fully. And a reading is so interesting because a lot of times it's lights up. You can see everybody. So you got this even more for me. You have to give into the imaginary world even more because you can fully see what's in front of you. So that tie has to be so strong. You have to be so strongly tethered to the material and to your partner because it's so easy to be taken out of it based upon how the audience is responding to you or whatever happens because you can see everything, right?
Yes.
The second time we did it, I was a little bit older. We were doing it with different people. I remember this. I was more concerned about the accent.
Oh.
And you had like I did it and then I was concentrating on the accent and it took away like my connection because now I was concentrating on this technical thing. And you were like, don't worry about the accent. Oh, my friend had come. You were like, did she say something about the accent? And I said, yeah. She was like, I fucking hate actors. Don't.
Here's a little, wait a minute, public service announcement. Actors, don't listen to each other, A, and B, don't talk to each other. If you're an actor, don't talk to your fellow actor after they've done a show. Don't talk. Like, I knew someone had said something to you, Jasmine, because something had happened in your performance. I was like, will you stop? Just do what you've been doing. Oh my gosh.
Yes. And so you did. And then, I just went back to doing what I was doing. So that was a major, major, major lesson for me I think that's the other thing that I love about readings is I don't have to worry about if it was a full production or a television show, I would have to have that accent down pat, right?
Of course, yeah.
Reading, I didn't have to because that wasn't the purpose. That wasn't the point. Right.
No, and in fact, the dialect that you did come with, just to be, nitpicky, the characters are from Long Island, and it's a very difficult thing. But Jasmine, you understood that there was a little, maybe Brooklyn or something. It didn't matter. However you understood it, whatever that Brooklyn maybe was, that was the internal life of the character and the behavior of the character. The playwright was even like, I don't care. That's her. That's the girl up there. If we were doing the play, we 100% would have to catch the dialect because it was also it's a particular time and a particular place. So yes, but that's when you have a rehearsal process, But I remember we're running out of time here. But Jasmine, I remember that it started to take a little something out of you. I remember that.
Do you want to?
I think speaking about commitment, because you were like, this really means something to me and I'm committed to it, but it's taken something out of me.
But by the time we did it the third time, I had some personal connection to depression and suicidal ideation. And to go into, I remember I told you, I don't know if I can do it this time. It's hitting a little bit too close to the bone this time. I'm not quite sure I can. But I also just love the material so much. And at that time had such love and affinity for Rutgers. So anything that I could do that was going to invite people in or sort of, it was an honor to be asked to showcase the type of work that you'll do if you go to this school, So I said yes. And I remember we did the talk back afterwards, and it was the first time they were talking to me and I really couldn't concentrate or focus. And I just finally said, it's hard for me to be sitting here talking to you right now. I am in literal pain because I am still living through wanting to die and the disappointment of still being alive.
Oh.
And I'm carrying that right now at the same time as I'm just Jasmine trying to talk to you about actor's process and what we went through and why. And I was proud of myself for being honest about the fact that I was holding those two things and about the fact that it was hard to hold those two things at one time. And I going back to the very beginning of this conversation, knowing your self-care, knowing your toolkit. Like I remember you said in that first episode, you always reference this actor who's like, what does it take to get rid of it? Like a pint of Guinness. And if that's your toolkit, great, right? But I always advocate for toolkits that are sustainable, that are healthy for you physically, mentally, emotionally, that are versatile. So, like, what if you're not near a bar, or what if the liquor store is closed, right? Then what are you going to do? How are you going to take care of yourself? How are you going to decompress? And so before I said yes to that third time, I had to check in with myself and see, how am I going to take care of myself after doing the show? And I think after I left that talk back, usually we would go out to eat. I don't think I went out to eat. I just think I took some time by myself to just kind of sit and give space for, when you're doing theater, and I'll wrap it up with this. I've found when I do theater, I have to allow myself the process or time to let that character's experience go, because I know I'm still the vessel and it's still very much inside of me. But after we've done that last performance, there's no longer an outlet.
Yeah.
They still are alive. And so I have to then allow space and time for that person, for that entity, for that story to settle itself and to leave, or to settle itself in a place where I can now, oh, this is a part that I'm going to keep. So that I can move on responsibly and not with undealt with trauma, or danger of any sort. I always think about Heath Ledger coming off of The Dark Knight, and all he wanted to do was sleep. All he wanted to do was go to sleep, right? We will never know, but maybe had he allowed himself time in between projects to let that character go, then perhaps we would still have Heath today, right? So, like, the project is never more important. The story is never more important than your health, than your safety, than your emotional, mental, physical health and safety. And if you do feel like the project is important enough for you to risk that, then be very clear about what that risk is, and be very clear about how you are going to take care of yourself through it and after it.
It should never take the essence of you away from you. You should never suffer for your art. Most people will go like, well, you got to suffer for your art, right? No. And if you know that you don't have the capacity for it, I think also, don't you think also that in our culture, it's so hard to get a job as an actor that you think, I got a job, I say yes to it, and I need it. I wish it were different, but it's not. It's not like, well, I'll take that next job. You're always worried you're never going to get the next job.
And that's when you really have to remember that it is a marathon. It isn't a sprint, that you will age in and out of different types. You will age in and out of different characters, right? So give yourself the time and the space. Like, I always tell my students, or if I'm going to talk to people who are graduating, they'll ask me questions about the business. First thing is to get your life together, right? Make sure that you have a stable place to live. Make sure you have shelter. Make sure you have food. Make sure you have an income that you can rely upon. Those things need to be settled before you start worrying about career. Because if those things aren't settled, then you're not setting yourself up to be able to make decisions that are in the best interest of your mental, physical, emotional
Absolutely.
health, right?
Absolutely.
Can't say no to a job or to an opportunity if you've got no other income or opportunities coming in, right?
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense. And it allows you to, the difference between being an acting student and being a professional actor. Like, when you're an acting student, or when you're studying, you're given all of these opportunities to create art, to produce art. The world is tripping over itself to give that to you. When you're a professional actor, those opportunities usually only come when you're getting an audition. And a lot of those times, the auditions are not going to be something that are artistically filling. So the other part of, like, building your world is making sure that you are putting in your world some sort of artistic outlet, something that you are in control of, that feeds your artistic self, so that you are not dependent on the audition in order for you to be actively working as an actor.
Mhm.
or waiting around for somebody to offer you something. I can't work unless somebody offers me a job. And even then, they really are only offering me an audition, not even a job. What are you doing? Sitting around waiting for somebody to offer you something? There are so many ways, especially today, to find an outlet, a creative and expressive outlet. We have no,
I'm not just talking about content creation, and I mean, I'm not on social.
of course. Yep.
No, but like I'm not talking about TikTok videos. That has its place, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about it could be as simple as grabbing a group of friends, sitting down and reading a play and talking about what that play is, or going to see a movie and then discussing like what was good in that movie, what was bad in that movie, what you take away from that movie, like keeping art a part of your life in an
Yes.
way, in an enjoyable way.
Yes.
Don't become resentful or bitter or angry about the very real negatives and drawbacks of the industry. Because I love acting. I often hate being a professional actor. And it has nothing to do with the art form and the artistry and everything to do with the business.
Yeah. We are completely out of time, but damn it, there's something I don't know if we can keep this succinct, but I really want you to address the 1-1 and what it meant. Do you think we should hold off on that, Jazz? Like if we open that up, is it going to be a thing?
I don't, I think it's similar to, something that I referenced already about wanting to work with the script so that I have a roadmap.
Right.
And that specifically references the work with the one or why I didn't want to be a player in the 1-1.
Yeah.
Part of admin, I could be a part of the structure building. I could be part of in the lesson building or lesson happening, but
They
active work. So
yeah. The shorthand here, because we do have to wrap up. The 1-1 company, which we reference quite a bit, asks the actors to leave themselves alone, and there's no script, and so whatever comes through them, they're the they're the conduit for the thing, and it's filtering through them. And Jasmine said to me, this is a little personal, but Jasmine and I talked about this, if it's okay. She said, I don't think I'm in a place in my life right now where I want to be that open vessel, because it may touch things in me that I don't necessarily want to hold the history of my culture and heritage and whatever. Maybe I don't want to be in that place where any great pain that came from hundreds of years of my culture. I don't necessarily think that I can have the strength right now to be the conduit for all that. And I thought that was really perceptive of you, and also really, solid for you to go, I recognize that and I know how to take care of myself.
yeah, I mean, yes, you said it succinctly. So that's exactly, it's exactly what it was. There were a lot of things. My identity as a Black woman in America, a Black person, period, in America. And then also I was dealing with other health things that very much hit upon, my identity as a woman, as a cis woman who was born with certain anatomy that, you feel like is supposed to allow you to do certain things. And that was being called into question for me. And all of that was something that I knew had the potential I could be walking down the street and run into something that would make me cry unexpectedly, right?
Yes.
And like we were saying before, if I enter into a space as an artist, that expectation of collaboration, that expectation of commitment, that expectation of concentration, those are all things that I adhere to. And in adhering to those things, that could potentially put me in a position where now I'm putting myself in danger emotionally, because now I'm fully committed and I'm caught up in telling this narrative. But now when it's over, I've now left myself wide open.
Yeah.
I think I didn't, my health insurance had lapsed, thanks SAG-AFTRA. So I didn't have, my therapist that I used to have. Like I knew, going back to toolkit, going back to self-care,
that I currently did not have the tools that I needed to be able to take care of myself in the way I would need to take care of myself if I ran into something that would be triggering in a way that would
Absolutely.
need that service.
And I, don't you wish you could know that younger, but you can't. Like, I'm glad we have this podcast because I hope young people are hearing you talk, but they can't until they have lived that experience. But it isn't bad for them to hear you say it so they can go, oh, maybe they'll find themselves in a situation and they'll go, oh, I remember Jasmine in that podcast said a thing similar to this. And here I find myself in it.
Right. Take a note of it. And I know we have to go, but I do want to make, because you said that, right? There's a difference between things that make you nervous or uncomfortable, or like you're maybe have a little imposter syndrome, insecurity about doing, and things that are unsafe for you to do. Those are two different things, right? Because I had years of experience as an actor, and because I had done so much work in therapy, in doing other things, of knowing myself. When I worked with the one that was last year, right? Last year.
Yeah, maybe.
So
Yeah.
Right. So all of that experience brought me to a place where I can make an educated decision that this is not the best thing for me artistically to do at this moment, right? When I was teaching college, or I was teaching at the university, what I ran into a lot was people assuming something or confusing something that made them insecure or nervous or maybe a little fearful to do with it being unsafe for them to do, and then categorizing it as something that was unsafe when it really wasn't, right? And you're undercutting yourself when you do that, because then you are limiting the type of work, material, roles you are able to do. You are making it okay for yourself to walk away from something that maybe bumps up against or challenges you. And that's not what I'm saying.
No, that's right. Those are two different things.
Different things. I'm saying don't do work that is going to compromise you in a way that is going to make it unsafe for you. But
I think that
try first. Often you have to try first before you can actually make an educated decision about, oh, no. This is not an area that I approach, but it's not an area that I need to go to.
Well, I think that's entirely an episode that Carson and I should schedule. That fine line between insecure or uncomfortable and truly unsafe,
Yeah.
And, this isn't that, but maybe when we do that, Jasmine, maybe you come back and be part of that conversation.
I would really love to. And I would love to talk to others, maybe having others on about it, because the landscape is shifting when you're going back to talking about trust. And
I know
that's a reason why that landscape is shifting, because people are coming in with not the storytelling as the priority, but your self-protection as the priority. And that's not
I know. No, there's no artistry in that.
Yeah.
I know. All right. Well, speaking of artistry, I'm really good with segues. Like Carson?
You're great. They're always seamless.
Speaking of artistry, Jasmine, you have to go make your self-tape.
I do.
That
Was that it? Come on now.
that was just crisp.
Jasmine, I love you.
I love you, old man.
You go make your self-tape, among other things. We never even got to talk about coLAB. Maybe that's enough. Maybe we bring you back to talk about
That was very much
I know.
about. Yeah.
We don't have time to talk about it, but we will.
We will.
Jasmine is part of a group called coLAB, and we'll bring her back to talk about it. All right. But we got to wrap up. That's it for episode 4, part 2.
Thank you, Jasmine.
Of It's Not a Meisner podcast. Thank you, Jasmine. As Carson just said, but I stepped on him. Say it again, Carson.
Thank you, Jasmine. Make sure to follow us on Instagram @Meisner Podcast.